You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 36.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back. So I wanted to, this week, follow up on our episode last week because there's actually more to the story. Last week, we talked about the importance of planning ahead because we want to put your prefrontal cortex or your executive brain in charge of your food decisions, right? We don't want your primitive brain making food decisions. So I talked about that last week. So if you did not listen to last week's podcast, which is episode number 35, go back and listen to that one first, and then come back to this one because it's going to give you some fundamental information there. So here's what happens for people. Let's say that you listened to the podcast last week and you have all your food planned for the day. It's all ready to go. And let's say even that you're one of those real A+ weight loss students and you have all your meals prepped and ready to go. So everything has been weighed and measured and it's all in containers in the refrigerator or the freezer or both. And you do all this work and you breathe this big sigh of relief because now you don't even have to think about your food for an entire week. No decisions to make, none. Your executive brain has planned it all, and you know that all you have to do is eat this food at the right times, and there's going to be no question that you're going to get healthy and you're going to lose weight. And I want to just say, doesn't that just sound really awesome? Like, have it all planned and ready to go. Except, life isn't really that simple, is it? Very frequently, we end up with these urges, okay? And so the pre-planning is the first step. So that's what we talked about last week. What we're going to talk about this week is what happens when you have everything pre-planned. So let's say you get an urge to eat something that's not on your predetermined plan. And you're not really sure. Is this hunger? Did I not plan enough food? Do I need more calories? Or is this some sort of emotional need that's presenting itself as a desire to eat? And so, as we talked last week, this is the beauty of pre-planning. It allows you to catch yourself when you're tempted to eat for emotional reasons. And it's going to give you a chance to pause and think things through. Okay? So I'm going to teach you something that I learned from Susan Albers, who's an eating disorders expert, about how to tell the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. She actually has developed a really beautiful diagram, and we'll put a link to this diagram in the show notes. And we have this diagram up all over our office, and we give a copy of it to all of our new patients. Basically, it's like a flow sheet. And it's a flow sheet that helps you determine whether this urge to eat that you have is actually physical hunger or whether it's an emotional need. Okay? So let's talk about the difference. So for physical hunger, here are the signs of physical hunger. The first thing you're going to notice is that your stomach is growling and your energy is low. You're able to consider options for what to eat. It doesn't feel like a dire emergency. The hunger has grown gradually. It's been some time since you last ate, several hours at least. And when you eat food, it satisfies you. So those are the signs of physical hunger. Now, here are some signs of emotional hunger. You may have just eaten. There are no physical cues. For example, your stomach is quiet and you may or may not feel fatigued. Sometimes emotional hunger is actually fatigue. So that can be a little bit tricky sometimes. But oftentimes you're craving something really specific, like chocolate or chips or ice cream. Eating food seems like the best or maybe even the only option for you. And you're wandering around your kitchen. You might be searching for something. This used to happen to me. I had one of those walk-in pantries, and I would just walk in there and I'd just be like, ugh, I need something to eat. And when you do eat, food does not satisfy you. So that's emotional hunger. Now, I used to work with an eating disorder specialist myself, and she always told me, put your hand on your stomach, and if there's any doubt about whether this is a physical or emotional hunger, then it's not physical. She said she would compare it to having an orgasm. She'd say, if there's any doubt, it didn't happen. So the same is true with physical hunger. If there's any doubt, it's not physical hunger. It's emotional hunger. Okay. So I just wanted to give you those cues or those clues to the differences between physical and emotional hunger. And again, you're not going to know for sure unless you have all of your meals planned ahead. Because if you're just grabbing stuff on the run, you're just letting your primitive brain make food decisions for you, and you're not going to be able to know when you are actually emotionally hungry. Okay? Most of us are emotional eating often, and many times we do recognize exactly what's going on because it usually happens at night. We did a whole podcast about eating at night in the past, so listen to that. Usually it's when we're winding down from our days, and oftentimes we're either sitting on the couch in front of the TV or we're in bed and we're eating chips or ice cream or candy or something like that. And those are some obvious times. And we're working on this and we're recognizing what's going on. But there are other times when we're eating for emotional reasons and we don't even recognize it as emotional eating at all. So sometimes our emotional eating can be more subtle. And so that's what I wanted to talk about because it's really important to discern exactly what's going on in our brains and what our real needs are. So, for example, let's say that you have a delicious spinach and chicken salad with avocado and an amazing vinaigrette dressing. It's all ready to go for lunch. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Delicious, right? But maybe what happened to you is what happened to one of our clients in Journey Beyond Weight Loss. She wrote this week. She said, I work in an office all week that brought in lunch every single day. Monday, sub sandwiches and chips, my favorite. Tuesday, pizza. Wednesday, Olive Garden. Thursday, barbecue, brownies, cookies, Dunkin' Donuts. She said it was all there. And so let's say that this is you. Somebody has brought in food and you really want to join in. You don't want to eat your salad because you don't want to feel left out. Okay? This is emotional eating. The emotion that you're trying to avoid is that feeling of being left out. Or maybe there's a concern that others are going to judge you for eating your salad and not eating the special office lunch. So does that make sense? Now, Marchelle, this never happens in our office, of course, because, well, once in a while it does. We'll order out once in a while, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I used to have, back when I worked in other clinics, we used to have a lot of drug rep lunches, and they would bring foods like that. And it was very hard to say no because they were doing it as a treat and it's free. So,
and it's free. I know.
It was really, no matter, even if I'd already brought lunch, which would have usually been a salad or something like that, I would have definitely just left that for the next day. And I would have I'd just eat, what was brought, just, because it was too hard for me to say no.
Exactly. So you were saying no because it was free, not necessarily because you were feeling you would feel left out if you didn't.
No, it's because it was free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of there's a sense of financial security that you're trying to feel there. Here's another form of emotional eating that can sometimes happen. So let's say that one of the ways that you and your husband connect is with a couple of glasses of wine every night. So you're wanting connection. So that's an emotional need. And drinking the wine with your husband is essentially emotional eating, or in this case, emotional drinking in disguise. So connection is one of the ways that we eat. We eat for connection. Or let's say that you're having dinner out with friends, and it's a really big deal which restaurant you go to because the food matters. This is actually emotional eating too, because you're not necessarily eating to nourish your body. You're eating for entertainment and for connection with your friends. Okay. And then let's say that you're out with your friends and someone orders an appetizer and you really want to eat some of that appetizer, but you didn't plan to eat it. This is an emotional need, again, a need for a belonging or a need to avoid judgment, something like that. So those are a lot of the ways that our brains kind of ask us to eat. And the cue is really an emotional cue and not a physical cue. I do want to interject something really important here. I don't want any of us to underestimate the power of this need for belonging, because it is hardwired into us. Because as we were evolving, we evolved in tribes and clans, and we needed to be with other people in order to survive. So we needed to have that sense of community and that sense of belonging. Being alone meant certain death from either predators or enemies. So animal predators or human enemies. So we need to be connected to other people, and we need to feel a sense of belonging. And it shows itself to us in this desire to eat what everyone else is eating. Unfortunately, in our current food environment, if we eat what everyone else is eating, we're going to continue to eat toxic foods in large amounts. So I just want to make this present and acknowledge that this is hard. This is really hard to do because it's like two parts of our brain are fighting against each other. So sometimes when we decide to give up emotional eating, we're trying to do something that we're hardwired not to want to do. And it's difficult. And so that's why it's so important to make sure that you have a group of people who understand and a community of people who get you. And this is what we have in our Journey Beyond Weight Loss membership. All right. So do you have anything you want to say, Marchelle? Does any of this?
Yeah, for one, it just really blows my mind that these foods that have absolutely no nutritional value, we want so bad.
I know.
And especially when we're feeling something or we're not feeling something or we need to feel something. And it's so crazy how these are so closely connected. And we've talked about it so many times, but just re-listening to you talk about this, it's just a trip how our minds work.
Yeah. Well, here are some other examples of what I would consider to be subtle emotional eating. So let's say you're driving home from work. This used to happen to you all the time, Marchelle. And you would stop at a convenience store for chips or cookies or whatever to eat on the way home. That's what I remember you telling me. Is that correct?
Every day. Yeah,
every day.
So because I live about 25 minutes out of town and I would be tired after work and I didn't want the boredom of driving home, that 35 minutes. So I would pop in, I would get off. I had the same convenience store that I would go to every day. And I would have like these 3 same snacks I would get. And they were all definitely not healthy. but they would get me through the drive because they would distract me, and I would listen to, some kind of podcast or whatever. And so it was just to distract me from, the boringness of driving home for those 25, 30 minutes. And and I was realizing like how bad. I mean, I was feeling so crappy all the time. And I know it was just because I was just doing that every day, and it just became such a routine. And so I had to really break that snacking habit.
Yeah. So for you, the emotion you were trying to avoid was boredom on the drive home.
Yes.
I think for me, when I'm coming home from work, sometimes it's like there's self-judgment going on in my head about what things I did right at work or what things I didn't do right at work. And did I get all my work done? And is it all good enough? And, there's all of this stuff going on in my head all the time about whether it's good enough or not. And so, so trying to avoid those kinds of emotions, I think, is really common for people as well. So, because eating will distract you from that sort of looping that goes on in your brain, because you're focused on the pleasure of the food that you're eating. So that's subtle. That's really subtle. You don't really recognize that that's what's going on. Now, of course, if I had recognized what was going on, I could work on that tendency to judge myself, right? like maybe that's not healthy for me to be judging myself like this all the time as being inadequate or not doing it right or whatever. Because those thoughts of self-judgment are actually optional. I don't have to think those thoughts. And again, this is more of the work that we do in the Journey Beyond Weight Loss membership. We're really working at figuring out what are these thought loops that are going on in our head that are causing us to feel so bad that we feel the need to eat our way through them, right? Here's another example of emotional eating. Let's say that it's 3:00 in the afternoon. This is an example that James Clear talked about in his book, Atomic Habits. And he said every day at 3:00 in the afternoon, he needed a break. And so he would go to the cafeteria and he would get himself a cookie. And then he would go and he would sit down with one of his colleagues, and they just both sit and have cookies together at 3:00 in the afternoon. And then they'd go back to work after that. So it's like having a little snack and then going to finish your work. That's actually emotional eating. Or let's say you decide, I'm going to get this job done and then I'm going to have my snack. So that's reward eating. So that's emotional eating. Okay. I find that when I'm working at home, I catch myself in emotional eating almost every day because the kitchen is right there. So I'll be working on a project and I'll get up to take a break, and almost without thinking, I'm over at the jar of nuts. Now, you would think that I would take that jar of nuts and put them in the inside a cupboard so that I would actually have to pull them out. But, these habits, they just die hard. And I will tell myself, this is a healthy snack. It's not a problem. But the truth is, it's emotional eating because I don't need that food. I'm not physically hungry. And it's a distraction from the focus and concentration that's required to work on my project. Wouldn't it be so much better for me if I would just get up and go take a walk outside or something else that would distract me for a little while and, give me a break from all of that focus and concentration? So many of us are eating just to take a break. So the idea of actually just sitting and doing nothing is sort of foreign to us. We always have to be doing something. And because if we're not doing something, we're judging ourselves as being lazy. And so instead of just sitting and taking a break, we eat. So we're eating to relax. And I've talked to lots and lots of patients who told me it's the only time that I have to myself is that time that I'm eating. So this is actually emotional eating. Okay. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any other ways that you've noticed that we might be engaging in subtle emotional eating?
Yes. So, I had some stuff to, prepare that I was going to say about, travel, eating and drinking and celebrations and all that. But I had this experience today that I wanted to share with you guys. So pretty late last night, I got a phone call, pretty devastating phone call from my mother that one of my close relatives had passed away. And it was pretty late at night. So, I don't think I really processed it. I fell asleep. And then I got up this morning and I had a quick errand to run. And right after I did that, I went right to Burger King through the drive-thru because I was going to get some French toast sticks with some syrup because I felt like I needed some kind of feel good. And I have not, this was just like, because I just did, the sugar and flour detox and done really well. And so it's just not something that, I have been doing as a habit. And they were closed, luckily, because I live in a small town, and they were closed. Drive-through was like blocked off. And so then I was resentful. So then I went down to McDonald's, and the drive-through was so full there that I was like, no, forget it. I'm not going to wait. So then as I was driving down the street, I'm like, okay, donuts. Because I don't know if anybody knows me. They know that donuts are my
donuts are your thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was so determined to get donuts. So I go down to this local donut shop and they didn't have the donuts I want. So I got back in my car and I went to Safeway and I got to the donut place there and I was looking at the donuts and something like clicked inside my head. Like, what am I doing? I was like a crack addict trying to find a fix. I went to 4 different places looking for something to satisfy me. And I realized that it was because I was feeling these negative emotions. And I wanted to feel better. And it's so deep that I just, in the moment, I forgot everything. Everything went out the window about, my sugar and flour, everything I knew went out the window. And I was on a mission to make myself feel better. And you even told me, Angela, when this happens, you got to sit for a minute in your feelings and label them. And then, so I walked out of that store and I didn't buy any of that stuff. And I got in my car and I came home and I did not give in to it. And that's one of the first times, because Angela, you know me. I talk to you about this all the time. Like I really, really suffer from this, these emotional triggers. And so is one of the very first times I was able to walk away and just realize, what I was doing. And I know when I played the tape out, I know, and I'm sure all of you guys know what happens in the end. And what happens in the end when you do that is regret. And then you feel like crap and you feel bad about yourself. And then there's all that kind of negative talk. So, that's just the experience I had this morning. And,
wow, that's a huge win. That's huge. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. But it was an experience. I made me late to do the podcast this morning because I didn't plan on, going to 4 different stores looking for sugar.
Yeah, I get it. I got a text saying, I'm running late. I'm running errands and I'm running late. Little did I know.
It was so funny. I know. And I didn't even recognize it, Angela, until I got home. And I just had to sit for a second and just kind of think back, whoa, what just happened? It's so weird. And so, like I said, I'm really happy I got to share that with you guys. And, and I'm not feeling great emotions right now. The emotions I have, they suck. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm heartbroken. I do not like feeling these feelings. And, but I also know that sugar is not going to do any good. It's not going to take those away.
Right.
So, or, it's not going to change anything. And then I'm just going to feel extra crappy after I do it.
Well, it will give you a 5-minute relief and then you end up feeling worse. Right. So, Right. And it's like when you lose somebody you love, you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel grief. It's normal. I don't know why we ever got this idea that we shouldn't feel negative emotion, Like, yeah, you should feel that. It's fine. It's normal.
I think like, if I think way back and like I dig really deep, I feel like, I don't know if any of you were given a pacifier when you're a baby.
Yes. Well, most babies are, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I feel like at some point, sugar became that pacifier for anything, any kind of emotion that I was feeling. Mom pops the pacifier in your mouth. If you start to cry, like, okay, be quiet, you're fine, you're fine. And I just feel like that carried over into, my childhood with candy. And then, carried over into my adult life with beer and wine. So, so it's always been this pacifier of any kind of negative anything, any kind of negative emotions I feel. And that's really like deep work that I'm having to do. And it's taken a long time for me to even recognize that that's what's going on. So, I mean, it just goes way back for me. And, and so I don't know if anybody else, can relate to this, but it takes a lot of work to recognize it and to fight it because emotions are not fun to deal with.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's not just negative emotions, it's positive emotions, it's that sense of celebration or that, I'm going on a vacay, and I want to have fun and I'm going to use food and alcohol as my way of having fun. So that's emotional eating too,
Yeah, I'm definitely all across the board on that. I'm all the way from celebration to, distraction to fulfilling or, getting out of negative emotions. I mean, I'm all across the board. I definitely use mine as sugar. I mean, in many different forms.
Well, and the thing I don't want, I'm not saying that you should never ever eat for emotional reasons. I don't want to give anybody that impression either. I'm not saying that if it's my birthday, I'm not going to eat a piece of cake to celebrate my birthday, right? I'm just saying, sometimes on Friday or Saturday nights, I'll have a cocktail or a glass of wine as a way of sort of winding down and celebrating. And, I already told you, like, I catch myself all the time with the nuts. So am I saying that if you eat for emotional reasons that you're not going to lose weight and that you're failing and all of that? No. Of course, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if we do what Marchelle is doing here and we become much, much more aware of our emotional eating and we start to learn how to satisfy our emotional needs without denying them. I mean, so much of what we're doing is we're denying our emotional needs and we're trying to end up satisfying them in some other way with food or alcohol or both. We have to learn how to answer these emotional needs without food constantly. That's the secret to lasting weight loss, right? We have to become aware of all of the self-judgment that goes on in our heads and correct that thinking. We have to notice how often we eat in order to belong or to avoid what we think is going to be the judgment of other people. We have to learn how to have fun without having food or alcohol be the primary way we do it. Okay. So those are the skills that we build on and we work on over time. Never perfect. Perfection is not necessary here, but just always getting better and better and better at this all the time. Because as we learn how to pay attention to our own emotional needs and how to stop using food or alcohol as a Band-Aid, we come to discover who we really are, right? What you're discovering, Marchelle, as you are not eating, you're allowing yourself to feel what you're naturally going to feel. You get to know yourself better, right?
Right.
You get to know who you really are better, and you get to love yourself more. That's the beauty of all of this, is that we come to discover who we really are and how awesome we really are and what it means to be a human being who is navigating in the world, feeling different things at different times. And we get to discover what it means to have a really healthy, vibrant body at the same time. And that's what we do. If you do this weight loss journey well, you are going to come to know and love yourself so much more. And that's what we're all about. So we have a lot more to say about all of this in our membership, and we really give you the tools that you need to work through this. So I would encourage you to join us. If you are interested, just go to JourneyBeyondWeightLoss.com /join, or you can download the free course and learn that way as well. And Marchelle, again, I'm right there with you, as you're struggling with grief and sadness. And it's tough, and it's nice to have, other people that are there supporting you too. So is there anything else that you wanted to say or share?
No, thank you. I just wanted to, give the message that, anybody's listening to this, it takes a lot of time. You got to give yourself a lot of time to learn a different way. And if you don't do it just right, just not to give up.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't give up.
Right. Never give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right, great. So we will see everybody next week. And again, just keep loving yourself through this and appreciate all of the emotions that you're feeling. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to JourneyBeyondWeightLoss.com /free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.